Hello, and welcome back to 33 Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Michael Abney, and today I'm joined by Ralph, founder of Stroke Buddies. Ralph, welcome to the pod. Really glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. Had the pleasure of meeting you a couple of months ago. We were getting ready to record. Like the one day I got sick for the past 6 months I've been recording this. I've only had one day, and you were on that day. So thank you for rescheduling with me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
During that conversation, something that stood out to me right away was that your story about what you're building. I can't wait for people to hear it. It's incredible. But that you're building something that supports tens of thousands of people, a real community, real programming, real connection. And yet, even how you talked about it earlier on our call before we started the pod, and when I met you before, I noticed that you just kept yourself a little bit outside the center of it, almost like that work didn't matter as much as you. And today, I wanted to be talking about that, your transition, that dichotomy of creating something and where do you fit into it. I think it's a fascinating conversation on top of the amazing story that you have. So I can't wait to share that. For now, you're pointing to where we can't grow without stepping into yourself more fully. And I believe we're all sort of going through that, a version of that space, stepping into something that we can't fully see yet as human beings with everything that's happening. I think today is the perfect day that we're recording this. I just want to start here. Thank you for being here, and start with where I start all of my conversations with my guests. And that's that space, that transformational space that you're currently authentically in right now.
Well, I had a stroke 18 years ago. Well, not quite. Saturday will be 18 years. And I saw that there were not a lot of resources available once you left the hospital. Things have really changed a lot in that time frame, in that there's quite a bit more now than there was there. You mentioned tens of thousands of people, but let me put it into perspective. We have about 40,000 people. If we assume that every single one of them is in the United States, and they're not all, that would be 1/3 of 1% of the stroke survivors in the United States, 8 million. So there's 90, no matter how big I can grow what I'm doing, there's still people, and we're not the only answer. There's still lots of people out there. There's 99.7% of people that don't know anything about what I'm doing. So there's
going to be more when they listen to this.
huge.
So you had the
Every 40 seconds, somebody in America has a stroke. So if we go 40 minutes, there'll be 60 people have a stroke during this podcast.
Wow, that's sobering, isn't it? That have no idea how the world just changed instantly. And they're getting ready to realize what you realize, is there's not really a support system to support people and really exploring fully healing or healing beyond what we're told that's possible after you have a stroke, right?
Right. For most people, not all, for a lot of people, get some good care in the beginning. Hospitals and rehab hospitals or physical therapy, those kinds of things. But those resources run out. A lot of people don't know you can renew them every year. That's one of the things that we try and make people aware of. Insurance resets every year. So if you're aggressive, then you can get more than somebody who sits on the sideline. So that's an important thing to teach people, not just the insurance resets, but you have to advocate for yourself. There's nobody, the cavalry is not coming. You have to look. If you don't do it, nobody's doing it. So you better learn how to become your own best patient advocate, in addition to your own physical therapist. Because physical therapy will run out on you. Yeah, even if you renew it, you can use more than 15 or 20 sessions a year. There are 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah, absolutely. What you said, so it's 18 years ago this Saturday. Wow, that's a long time. So from your experience,
I'm real happy with that figure. I'm trying to add.
that's awesome. But I'm curious though, just for somebody that's listening, because I'm even wanting to know now, Like when you initially had the stroke and you come out of it, like how long did it take you to get to a place where you realized, hey, there's something here. There's something that I could possibly do about it to improve it that started this whole journey that you've been on for 18 years. Like, what was the things that clicked that said, this doesn't work and I want to do something about it? Because those are two really impactful things that I think a lot of us, no matter what we're all facing, is some version of I had no idea this was going to happen, yet it did, but yet here I am, and what am I gonna do about it? So I normally don't dive into the things that we build, but I find it so fascinating about your story, about how you can literally have a stroke, have all of that, I have no idea what that does to your outlook or how you see the world, but I know it has to affect it in some way, but yet somewhere inside of you had the knowing that you could make a change here, you could improve this in some way. Can you share a little bit about that part of your story?
Sure. If I'm not careful, I would answer that question mostly based on further down the road in the journey. It actually happened. This is the truth. I don't really remember it. But while I was in the rehab hospital, sitting in a wheelchair, I don't know who I thought I was going to help sitting in a wheelchair, not being able to do much of anything for myself. But I had two friends who told me in our phone conversations that while I was still in the rehab hospital, which would have been less than 22 days after my stroke, I was talking about helping other people. My mom taught us to live by the golden rule, and I've always helped people. I started helping nonprofits with my video camera in 1987, 2 years after I formed my video company, and done a lot of work with that. And so, in a sense, what I did was I switched my work from helping nonprofits over to stroke. I just pointed the camera in a different direction, if you will. So there was no I don't really remember saying that to either of them, but when they recounted it back to me, I said, "Hmm, I don't remember that, but it kinda sounds like me, doesn't it?" And we had a chuckle about it. I can point to certain things in my journey after that running out of physical I got 30 sessions, more than a lot of people do, and it keeps getting cut down. So the first thing was when I started realizing if I went twice a week like they wanted me to, they insist actually in the beginning, that I would run out in 15 weeks. And that didn't make it through the whole year. So my first realization was having to space out my physical therapy so that I could continue to take the piano lessons. I preach that therapists are like piano teachers. You go for a lesson, you learn something, you come home and you practice. And if you don't come home and practice, the piano teacher, just like the physical therapist, knows whether or not you practice or not. And just like the piano lesson, if you don't do your physical therapy, who are you cheating? You're cheating yourself. So that's another one. Becoming your own physical therapist, I think, is important in this process, like advocating for yourself. So, and from there, it's well, every day I run into gaps that exist. The first thing I did was I kind of identified this gap. I decided I wanted to do something about it. I went around and talked to about 20 hospital systems about putting together a project. Nobody could support the entire thing by themselves. But every single one of them said, "You've identified a gap that we know exists, and we will help you in some way if we can." And eventually, I kind of gave up on putting consortiums together. Got this close with a stroke association, Tri-State Stroke Network, but right as we were getting ready to do what I wanted to do, the CDC pulled the plug on their funding, and that went down. So I started a YouTube channel because I'm a video professional. I had a camera, had an edit system. I never only appeared once on camera in 40 years, 35 years of being in video at that point. And I didn't like being on camera. And but I said, you have to point the camera at yourself. You have to do this. And maybe eventually you'll if you keep building little pieces of it, maybe you'll get to where you wanted with the big project. And here we are. I think there's 399 stroke videos on my YouTube channel now. So, persistence is persistence. I found persistence to be very important in life, and it's very important in stroke recovery. My persistence and my stubbornness served me well in my own recovery. So I just keep, as I say, pushing the rock uphill. Or how do you move an elephant? Keep pushing.
It is about that consistency and not giving up. Even and the bigger it is, the more effort it takes at the beginning to get that rock moving. I totally get what you're talking about. That's what separates it's what separates folks, like how much can they handle of that. Because you're building something without having a blueprint for it, and any sort of uncertainty that, I'm in this space now, but the world that we live in, so much of my life was consumed by creating more certainty in my life. More certainty I can create income, more certainty of health, more certainty of everything. That was the driving factor, security, like as a value. And I come to realize that like all of the things that I thought were true or not, and like for me personally, how I'm seeing it, like it is a massive shift. And I find myself, how much longer can I keep going? But at some point, there's like, I can't turn back, like I've been going down this highway for 60 years now. So it's like, yeah, you're right. And it's almost to the level of art now about how much we can process like things that I'm like, now knock me off my center for 6 months back in the past, and how quickly that training of just life happening to us and all of that unknown. So for you, like, how did you journey that, not only recovering from a stroke, but blueprinting and archetyping or architecting and founding a mission that you don't even know where the hell it's going? Probably still don't on some level.
Well, just for a second, you talk about certainty. There's one thing that's certain, and that is, I mentioned there's a tremendous need, and that is I'm a volunteer. I'm gonna use the word job, but I want everybody to know I don't draw a salary. Heck, we struggle to finance what we're doing now, and that is that there's a certainty in that there's always going to be a need, and there's no way I can fill that need ever. I feel badly for people. It's not like I revel in that, but I have something in what I'm doing now. I'd kind of retired before my stroke, and I was working and doing things, but I always had businesses. And what I'm doing now gives me a focus. I like something where I can get up every day and build on it. And so that was a big driving force for me. And the whole thing kind of happened by accident. How do I identify needs? I kept bumping into needs. How do I, what kind of blueprint? I didn't start off with a blueprint. I just jumped in. And, there's that, we're flying the plane while we're still building it analogy. And in a sense, we are. But I found in life that it's really important to pay attention to what's going on. Uh, it's just like we were talking about interviewing. When you interview somebody, you have a plan, but you also have to be open to what they're going to say so that you can change or augment or just bring in something else to that plan. If you don't do that, then you're letting things in that interview go by. So it's the same with the whole thing with stroke. Things I've never thought about, I learn every day. How do I do that? People have them happen to them. I had one stroke. Everybody's stroke is different, and there's lots of different challenges that people face. And so my challenge is learning about as much as I can about every single one of the challenges that people are facing so that we can so we can address them. Or if we're already addressing them, do a better job addressing them. So if you pay attention, I think the blueprint's there for you, if you will. It's up to you to recognize what's going on and bring the meaningful pieces into your world or realm. I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I do know what I'm doing. if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's just a hard line to stay centered on for so long, without like giving up or falling into, a mental trap. How did you keep that going? How did that happen? Was it just a spark inside of you that you couldn't turn off? It was just something that you didn't entertain. Have you ever thought about quitting? Yeah.
Have I ever thought about it? I would be lying if I didn't say that I've never had times where I was discouraged about what I'm doing, but I try and keep them short-lived. It's a lot like when you're depressed after a stroke. If you try not to string too much depression together, I try not to string too much doubt together. I bounce back from things. I've always had a lot of energy. I've always been a tough cookie. I've always helped people. I've always just I'm a plotter also. Everywhere I've gotten in life, I'm good at like paying attention to what's going on, but shutting out the distractions and keeping the old nose to the grindstone and heading. Like I said, I started with one video 9 years ago on my YouTube channel. Now there's 399. Didn't just I if you'd asked me when I made that first video if I'd be where I am here now with 400 videos, I probably would have said nah. But here we are. I'm a plotter. I keep to it. I'm stubborn.
I love it.
I don't I
Stubborn
don't take
against you some.
I don't take no for an answer very well at all. I'll give up on something, and I'll walk over here and like, and I'll turn around and go right back to it. That's my nature, and it served me well. Stubbornness served me real, like persistence served me real well in my recovery too, because I wasn't going to give up on myself. And you can't help others if you don't help yourself. So, I work
Yes.
probably 60 hours a week. But I cook all my own meals. I don't eat fast food. I've been a vegetarian. I get some exercise, not enough. I take have time in my. I take time for myself because I get 8 hours sleep usually, and because if you're not any good to anybody else, if you aren't any good to yourself.
No, it's true. That's where that fitting in, where we fit inside of the things that we're creating because it's a dance. And so you're just talking about like how you yeah, I totally get it. I do want to know, like from a 1,000 feet view about them. Like I know there's a million pieces of what you do, but like somebody just sharing at a party, like how would you share with them about what Stroke Buddies is now? Someone has a stroke. How do they connect with you? And how does that process that you've created play out?
Well, each person have to speak for themselves, but I can talk about our vision and how we try and implement it, and some
Yeah.
about I'm friends with 500,000, 1,500 stroke survivors. I don't know how many. Anyway, one of our mottos or little things is that I make up these little short catchphrases that are people gonna remember, because I think it makes it easier for people to remember. So one of them is, fighting strokes through sharing knowledge. That's pretty broad. We do that a number of ways. Like I said, I've got this YouTube channel. About 150 of those videos are exercise videos, very specific, things you can do to get your hand back, and, yeah, I got my hand back. A lot of people don't. It didn't just happen. But we're not here to talk about that. Another 150, I've had 156 scientists, neuroscientists, neurologists, PTs, OTs, speech therapists, inspiring stories, people who became stroke survivors who ran ultra marathons, became a Paralympic fencing champion, things like that. A lot of people do the inspirational stories. We do them occasionally when we come across somebody in our community, but since so many people focus on those, I took a turn towards science. I'm a big believer in a focused anything approach to anything is better than a haphazard approach to anything. And this is, I think, particularly true in stroke recovery. The more you know about what happened to you and how to deal with it, the better job you can do for yourself. And so we try and help educate people. So, we've talked we got basic science. So we've got Dr. Hetzler who's done 9 presentations, things on neuroplasticity, language in the brain, different things that give you an idea of how the brain works. And then we also talk to physical and occupational and speech therapists about specific things like foot braces, AFOs, or knee hyperextension, how to cure knee hyperextension, getting your hand back, all kinds of very practical things. So we try and put knowledge in people's hands so that they can do a better job. And then, as I've kind of touched on a little bit, we also try and teach them what we can about. Um, See, there's a whole nother side to this that is
Seen
really
it, yeah.
you're not covered, and that's the mental side. I do this kind of grandstanding thing. Okay, in a Zoom meeting, everybody who got physical therapy, put up their hands. Most all the hands go up. Okay, leave your hand up if you also got occupational therapy. Half the hands go down. If you needed it and you got speech therapy, leave your hand up. Now we're down to almost no hands. And then I say, anybody get mental therapy? If you got mental therapy, leave your hand up. All the hands go down. We're not really dealing with that. I'm not doing as much as I should, partially because I'm not making excuses, but partially because in order to get to 400 videos, I took how to strengthen that ankle, how to walk better, how to build up your core. There was a lot of exercise component to it. And now I think, I don't know if it's not a planned shift, but ultimately in a sense, we're shifting more towards things like the mental aspect. I'm like currently I'm in order I look for different people with expertise to bring on that Tuesday Recovery and Science Zoom show. Like currently got somebody who's an expert in the gut genome brain connection, which is fascinating new area of interest for scientists and such. So we just look for people like that. And I try and do a lot with aphasia because aphasia and language issues affect 1/3 of stroke survivors. They're an underserved community. We're trying to do more with caregivers because what happens to one happens to two or more if they have kids and, extended family. But if you have a partner, it happens to your partner, and neither one of you asks to get thrust into those new roles, and they're hard to deal with. Caregivers are unsung heroes. They need more support. Also, believe in certain things that are interesting to me, like music. So when I come across a neurologic music therapist, I'll tend to, okay, we've already done 4 or 5 shows on this, but come on in because I think that's real promising. In fact, I saw something today on LinkedIn that I screen grabbed to circle back later because it was about, well, it's a neuroscientist who's a musician who's written a book about the profound relationship between music and our psyches and our sense of recovery. Uh, for music can help in recovery, like breathing can. We took a couple of
Thanks for
deep before we did this.
Yeah, exactly. I always do that because it just instantly brings you right back to center. Fascinating. I've had maybe 3 or 4 neuroscientists on the pod. In fact, like I record on Thursdays. We're recording on Thursday right now, but I also have an episode that airs on Thursdays. So today's episode that's airing right now is from her name's Exona, and she is a neuroscientist from Harvard, and fascinating concepts about how sound environments also impact there's all these areas that impact us that are off our radar. So thank you for bringing that. I never thought of like the layers or the dimensions to stroke recovery that I would have never thought about. So thanks for like bringing that to the
Oh,
fore.
I got 2 more. We put on 63 breath classes. They're on a YouTube channel.
Wow.
Also have 16 yoga classes. Also have 23 fitness classes. I'm getting ready to do, if you mentioned talking about, future, and one of the things we hope to do in the future, well, we've got lots of things, and there are multiple steps because, as you know, you can't just without money, you can't really just flip a switch and do everything you want. And even if somebody gave me the money, we'd still have to do it in a smart way and build up infrastructure to be successful at it. I realize you just can't throw money at something, although it'd be nice to have some money to throw at a few things. Anyway,
Absolutely.
we're getting ready to put on to some weekly yoga class and weekly fitness class and weekly speech therapy class with, speech therapists, SLPs, speech and language pathologists. So, and they'll be free. We're going to try and get the people who are coming to support them, and if not, then do fundraising to support them. And it's my idea, and I've told our little small team, if it comes to it, I'll pay for them until we can get it going. If I have to make a financial commitment, we got Stroke Buddies kind of. Well, we operated on a few $100s a month, most of these AI subscriptions, websites, things like that, things that you know about because you pay for them. Um, but so we're going to pay these new instructors because I want to make sure that when you have volunteers are great and they have passion sometimes that, well, actually, some of these people are stroke survivors themselves. So they definitely have the same passion like I had to make it easier on the next person. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, ultimately, I would like to have a neurologist, physical therapists or two, occupational therapists, speech therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, somebody to deal with the mental aspect. I'd love to have those professionals on retainer, but that's a few $1,000s a month each, to where they could provide. Of course, you can't provide medical services specific to somebody unless you unless you put hands on them. So when we do our physical therapy thing, we talk and people can take those generalities and apply them to their own situation as needed. You'd be surprised how motivated and how educated some of the stroke survivors are in this community. When sometimes, well, we had doctor of PT recently. She's coming back in 2 weeks. Everybody loved her. It was a great presentation. But she said what a lot of other people say, that she was surprised at the knowledge and the interest, the passion of the community and the quality of the questions they asked. They also see, I see this as a two-way street. I don't pay any of the people that have come on that show. We kind of trade them exposure for their knowledge. Some people don't care about the exposure. Some people are selling books or do medicine visit and stuff. I don't endorse anything, I promote things. So if somebody's willing to come and talk about how to fix your knee, then I'm willing to drive them or I don't drive them. I don't, like I said, I don't endorse. I promote. So like, here you go. Here it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
See how it applies to you. So that's what we do, and it's worked so far. Most medical professionals have higher degree of empathy than normal human beings, I think. That's part of why they go into their profession. They basically want to help people. So, and then when you have 156 people, if you look at that list, I just send them the playlist, and sometimes if I want, I'll say, "You'll be in good company." As they scroll down, they go, because they're all p- not, they're all a lot of PhDs, doctors of physical and occupational therapy, or maybe just master's level. They're not lay people except for some of the survivor stories.
Well, I appreciate you having this fascinating conversation with me today and like opening up your world a little bit to share this fascinating concept and what you did with it over the long haul. I appreciate all of your wisdom. As we begin to close out the show for today, I could keep talking for another hour, but I've got to keep everybody in check it on time. But are you ready for your final question?
I suppose.
Okay, so let me get here. For somebody listening to us that's been through a life changing event and doesn't know what to do next, where would you tell them to begin?
I tell them to begin with themselves. So many people look for the answers outside themselves. Things outside of ourselves are often valid, but you have the answer inside of you in that you need to, and of course, I'm going to talk in terms of what you need to do, and this isn't always possible. I went through the whole depression thing. Just try not to string too much of it together. So, one of the things that you need to do is be good with yourself. You're not going back. Some level of acceptance is necessary in order to move on. That doesn't mean you make light of what happened to you. Your world gets turned upside down. It's really hard to describe to somebody what happens when you realize you may never be able to do all the things that you love to do again. In a sense, part of your identity is stolen from you because we all our identities are a product of the things that not just things we think and the things that we think about ourselves, but what we do in life. That's all taken away, and, some of us, stare over the edge of that cliff of death. I had a hemorrhagic stroke. 50% of the people who have a hemorrhagic stroke die that day. So, that's something
There's
to
that.
you have to be I would say, give yourself some grace, be tough on yourself when you need to, try and be consistent, try not to get discouraged. When you get discouraged, try and connect with tomorrow's another day and you have another chance. Try not to be bitter about what happened because it doesn't do any good. It slows you down. And, you've got your own rock to push uphill. That's
Exactly.
where it came from. It originally came from my recovery. I felt like every day, okay, get up again and push this darn rock uphill. Will I ever get where I want to get? Eventually, I did with my recovery. And I hope eventually to get where well, I'll never get to where I'd like to be with stroke buddies, but I'm satisfied with it now. I'm gonna do it until I can't do it. There's no exit strategy for what I do. You can't say to somebody, "I'm sorry, I've helped you enough. See you later."
Bye.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
not for I'm a total empath, so
Yeah.
that's
I
not
am
in
too.
my realm of thinking.
Get it. Well, I sure appreciate you sharing your realm of thinking with us today. And that was a beautiful way to end the show. I appreciate you being here and sharing your immense wisdom with us. And I'm just in my own brain mapping out all of the things you said. I can't wait to listen to this back because I hear 'em obviously when I'm doing them, but when I'm editing, it's like I get to hear our experience from another point of view, and it's really, really cool. I really appreciate it. So thank you for being with us today. Thanks for being
Thank
with on the
you.
pod. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's awesome. And you guys listening out there, listening to us, there's something powerful about building something that starts from necessity, not a strategy, not positioning, not having a blueprint, not having it figured out, just seeing a gap and refusing to let it be empty. And at some point, that work asks you to step into it fully, not because you want to be seen, because it can't grow without you. Maybe today is the day you begin a new conversation with yourself about that very thing. Remember, there's no right way. It's just one conscious choice after another. And as always, we will see you